We often forget that these animals are actually a lot like us, even though they're fish. They're very advanced, and they are just very, very intelligent, animals, and they make really cool decisions as they go throughout their day.
The first thing I wanted to ask you was I just watched Belly of the Beast, loved it. It was very fun, very interesting. I'm curious. You make Earl the fake whale carcass from which to observe these sharks, which is an amazing idea. Can you talk about kind of where that came from? I know you touched on that, and also just how long this idea was kicking around before it was realized.
Well, I had the idea for probably 2 or 3 years, and I actually pitched it to Shark Week, and worked with production company Hazmat, who I've worked with a lot on this one. But the idea came from science that I've actually been involved in for over 10 years. And what we've done is we've actually studied what these whale carcasses mean for great white shark science and great white shark ecology. What we've learned is that they're really important. They bring out the largest white sharks. They bring out the most white sharks. They're incredibly important from an energetic standpoint to these animals. So we wanted to try and simulate that because we know, A, we would get some incredible footage, but B, could this be used to bring some of the large great whites off of South Africa close to us? These are the white sharks that have kind of disappeared because the orcas off of South Africa have kind of scared and hunted a lot of those great whites away. So that's what we wanted to do. And it took a couple of years to kind of, put the ideas together, engineer it. But we did it.
Is it something that you would utilize again? And are there design changes you were thinking of, like as you were in there, like, oh, I wish this was a little different?
Yeah, I would definitely do it again. We might actually do it again because it worked really well. Honestly, I don't know if I would change much. I might make a few, modifications to the side flanks and, have some more areas for the white sharks to bite onto that we shark's teeth, or if a shark leaves a tooth back, that we can age the shark based on its tooth. Bite force, some of these things. The whole device, Earl, was rigged with GoPro cameras. So we got a lot of really great footage. We're actually going to analyze some of that, against real whale carcasses, from a scientific standpoint, which would be cool. But no, it worked really well. And it was actually very safe too, which was good for me.
Speaking of that, there were a lot of moments watching Belly of the Beast where it seemed like things were very close to going sideways. Just from an outsider's perspective, it seemed like there were a lot of sketchy moments maybe. As someone who spent so much time with these animals, how nervous do you actually get at this point?
It depends. If it's great whites, definitely very nervous. Inside a cage with great whites, not that scary, just really fun. Like Guadalupe Island, I did a show last year there, crystal clear blue water, huge white sharks all the time. But when you're in their environment, a place like South Africa, where the water's murky, you don't know what you're seeing, and you're simulating something that is very exciting to great whites, you just don't know. When that big one showed up, all bets were off, and that was a really powerful shark, thousands of pounds of weight, almost 20 feet long, tons of, huge teeth. That shark could do some serious damage. So I was very nervous when that big shark came up, but yeah, I had a good team supporting me, and luckily, we were safe.
How do you go about putting together a team? Because you're working with different people on Monster Mako and Belly of the Beast. Are these people that you had relationships before, with, or you sought out?
Both. So I love building teams. It's one of my favorite things. So I actually founded and run an ocean conservation NGO called Beneath the Waves. And I've been really fortunate to bring over a lot of folks from my team to the Shark Week shows this year, in the past and this year. So on the Mako Shark Show, Liv Dixon, she's a research scientist at Beneath the Waves. So she's one of my colleagues. She was on that show. I've worked with Andre Musgrove before on Science in the Bahamas. So, there's a lot of repeat sort of offenders, so to speak, but it's all about bringing together the right skills. People who are, water people, trained underwater with operations, people who have, very able scientific hands, whether we're tagging sharks or engineering devices, recovering devices, people who are good underwater. Sometimes you just need a really good safety diver. So I love bringing those teams together, and even, bringing medics. I have close relationships with everybody on these shows because I've worked with them year over year. And it really it's like this brotherhood, your sisterhood of people who are really passionate and also just really good at what they do.
I know in Monster Mako, there's a moment where I think it's Andrea and Rosie in the Shark Dome have to come up because it's been a long time and they haven't seen anything. How for everything that makes it to the show, how much time do you spend waiting and not kind of getting what you're after?
A lot of it. A lot of shark research in general is just sitting and waiting. Sometimes you get lucky and they're right there when you show up, but oftentimes, even with that, it takes a little bit of time to get them, excited and, used to us. So it's definitely, it can be quite the waiting game. It takes time. And, that's the one thing that people don't get is, we cram 5, 6, 7 days of shooting into a 44-minute show for Shark Week. But that's just the highlight reel. It's a lot of sitting and waiting.
Something I'm always very curious about with these shows, you kind of touched on it, but obviously as someone who is not a scientist, they're so much fun to watch. How do you kind of balance making something that is really entertaining for someone who doesn't know anything and also kind of has enough scientific value, to be interesting to you and your team and everything?
Yeah. It's exactly that. It's just a balancing act. That the network wants a good balance. And, for me, it's like, we don't have to manufacture any of that because the sharks are naturally exciting. They are naturally a little bit fearsome and they are dangerous. And what we're doing is dangerous. Like it just is. So that stuff is just going to find its way into the show. It's just natural. And yeah, obviously there's music added and some of the cuts, but that's just how it is. You have to make it exciting for a general public. And then for me, I always want to try and incorporate as much, science as possible in a concise fashion, and it actually helps scientists who are on these shows, getting their messages out, and it helps them how to communicate, to broad audiences. And yeah, just finding that balance is super fun.
I'm curious, is there a species or behavior or anything like this that you really want to go after in the future? Is there something that you think about that you really want to explore more?
Yeah, one of the things, so I do a lot of work on tiger sharks at Beneath the Waves, and I do a lot of work in the Caribbean, Bahamas, and I've done shows, for Shark Week in the past there. This year I just did the cold water locations, but in the future, what I'd like to do is follow a tiger shark for a couple days, with a underwater camera, robot, and just kind of look at what happens. What are they feeding on? What's an average day for a big tiger shark look like as they're cruising on the seagrass meadows? Things like that. It's like if we get a glimpse into what these animals are doing on intimate level, you make the most incredible observations that are often very relatable to people. We often forget that these animals are actually a lot like us, even though they're fish. They're very advanced, and they are just very, very intelligent, animals, and they make really cool decisions as they go throughout their day. So yeah, I'd like to do like a long-term camera study.
I think that's all I've got for you, but thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Owen. Happy Shark Week, man.
You too.